was born on 8 January 1972 in Ondo City. He graduated from Adewole University, Ile-Ife, and was called to the Nigerian Bar in 2000. He also earned a Master of Laws from the University of Jos and founded Adewole, Adebayo and Co. House of Law in Abuja. His entrepreneurial ventures include Egbe Agri-Jet Farmer, Site Phytochemicals, a Nigerian-India pharmaceutical collaboration for sickle cell, and Captain Television, which is a Pan-African network broadcasting in English, Yoruba, and Hausa. He served as Commissioner on Liberia's Truth and Reconciliation Commission in 2006 and was the presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party in 2023. In recognition of his distinguished contribution, he was awarded Honorary Doctor of Political Science by Western Delta University in 2025. He was also given an Honorary Doctorate of Law by Wesley University and the John Wesley Lifetime Achievement Award. He also received a traditional title in the Bakama Kingdom in 2026. A round of applause for Prince Adewole Adebayo Majesty.
Your Royal Highnesses, Professor Ademola Kokuola, the scholar who turned a boy to a scholar. Because when I was 18 years old when I met Professor Kokuola, having just been admitted to the law faculty at Ife. And when I was leaving, I had taken as much as I could from him, and I'm happy that he's here today when I'm back to Ile-Ife, the fountain of my own erudition, the beginning of my own mastery of law and what law can do for society. I thank all the leaders of the bar here, and I thank all the guests, and I will take a permission, not knowing how much time you have spent here, to first apologize that the advertised time was to be 1:50 p.m. and I thought it was good enough to arrive at 1:30. But on my way from Ibadan Airport to Ife, I was told that the session had been brought forward and that I should just join. So I do apologize. It is not in my nature to be late, and we as lawyers know that we don't do that. But despite that, I will try to make the time to be worth it for you, and I will be quick in what I need to say. And in line with the tradition of Egbe, I will speak in English and I will speak in Yoruba. I'll probably do it one after the other. My understanding of why we are here is because we are lawyers. And we are Nigerians. And we are lawyers within the enclave of Nigeria called Yoruba land. That's why we are Egbe, Amofin, Odua. And we are here to discuss a momentous legislative paradigm that is going to determine whether we take power by civilized methods or we resort to the brute force of nature. That is the Electoral Act. The Electoral Act 2026 is the latest iteration of series of electoral acts that we have used in the past. And the Electoral Act, I've drafted a few. I think the most substantial part of the 2002 Electoral Act was actually drafted by me at the instance of INEC. And I've litigated on Electoral Acts. There is no week that passes by that I won't have to cite to a Superior Court, so and so section of the Electoral Act. And the Electoral Act has become a permanent patient on the theater of our political surgeon. So anytime we see a good part of the Electoral Act that is inconvenient to our politics, we go and amend it to make it worse. Anytime we see a difficult part of the Electoral Act that we need to take our time to study and understand, we'll go and amend it. Anytime we see a bad part of the Electoral Act, we retain them so that we can use them to blame others or blame the law for all our transgressions. I'm a lawyer, I'm a Nigerian, I'm a politician, and I am, for the second time now, the presidential candidate of my party, and we're working very hard to convince Nigeria regarding the 2027 general elections. In fact, the Electoral Act is what we are using day after tomorrow to contest the election in Ekiti State. So this law is very important. But the problem with the law is our interaction with it. And if we understand that the text of the Electoral Act cannot on its own be perfect and satisfactory, because it is a law we use to distribute a very important benefit that results in a winner taking it all. There can only be one president in Nigeria, and the number of Nigerians who want to be president should be in the thousands. And the number of political parties will be 21 now, go to 22. Therefore, the Electoral Act designs the mechanism by which a winner emerges. And in the peculiar case of Nigeria, on many occasions, the Electoral Act is drafted by those who themselves want to win. And the Electoral Act gives responsibility to citizens, to institutions. And most of the institutions are under the control of government. Therefore, except we develop a general societal attitude of obeying the law, we cannot isolate a lawless society, cannot isolate the Electoral Act for obedience. A society that will obey the Electoral Act will obey basic laws, law of sanitation, law of vehicular traffic, laws, other laws. So in a lawless society, Electoral Act will also suffer. So the first contribution I will make is let us work towards having a lawful society. And a lawful society requires that the law is certain, the law is predictable, the law is accessible, and to make the law accessible, we should try as much as possible to not tinker with the law all the time. Because in practice, I have seen even the judges, the robed jurists on the bench, getting confused about all the latest amendments and amendments. So, talk less of ordinary people. Secondly, since the Electoral Act is mainly to govern how we choose our leaders, it means that the quality of the electors and the quality of those who are contesting cannot be divorced from the efficacy of the law. Because if you are applying the law governing soccer or football for FIFA World Cup or for UEFA or for African Champions Cup and other things, where professional players and professional referees and well-experienced managers are operating, it's different from if you are playing soccer under the bridge or at a motor park and you try to apply the FIFA rules. The people who are there don't have the intention that they want to keep these rules, and they're not likely to obey it. So those are the problems that I see the attitude towards the Electoral Act. Therefore, whether the prospect for political stability, Electoral Act can only play some instructional role in whether we want to have political stability. Because political stability is not limited to what happens in the course of elections. And I listened to His Excellency, the Deputy Governor of Osun State. It's unfortunate that he's not here, so I have to be nice because he's not here. He cannot retort. Is that many of the problems that the governor, as represented by the Deputy Governor, identified are not problems that the Electoral Act can solve. Because these are not problems pertaining to how to conduct elections. They are problems that are bigger. And I listened to Chief Niyi Akintola, SAN, talking in terms of the role of this body in the forthcoming election, or the issue of leadership in the country, and all the rest of it. I think that those comments were obiter and they are out of it. So now let me conclude and make a mini out of, I need to protest that a keynote speaker should not have just 10 minutes, but let me make sense out of it. So I will leave the Yoruba part of my rendition because I'm now being asked to abridge time. But there are 5 things I will leave you with, hoping that they will be useful. 1, it is true, we are Egbe, Amofin, Oduduwa. But there's no Oduduwa bar. There's only Nigerian bar. Therefore, the qualities that make us qualified to be lawyers, we have to admit that those qualities are also present in other members of the Nigerian bar who are not of Yoruba stock. Therefore, whatever we want to adopt here should be something that is applicable everywhere in Nigeria. Second, that the advantage we have as Egbe is that Yoruba Omoluabi ethos are even more demanding and more comprehensive than the requirement of being of good character and a gentleman for admission to the bar. So we are well prepared by the Omoluabi ethos to be members of any respectable and noble profession organization. So we have no excuse to give if we don't meet up with the ethics. Second part of that is that the legal profession, the modern legal profession, started from our own part of the country. And we've had our ancestors and leaders and mentors who have been in practice of that profession for more than half a century before other parts of the country took it up. So when we go anywhere and you announce your name and your name sounds like our name, people expect higher quality of presentation, higher ethics, and higher nobility. And I hope that we remember that all the time. The third thing is that we are bound by the Constitution of Nigeria to treat all Nigerians equally. Therefore, when we are giving praises or positive marks, we give without bias. And when we are giving sanction and reprimand, we give without bias. Therefore, our Yorubaness is not a basis to support any government that does not believe in the rule of law. Our Yorubaness does not excuse or give us a basis to support a government that is unconstitutional. Our Yorubaness does not give us any obligation to sustain an unsustainable administration in place. Therefore, each person should play their politics according to their conscience, and we should remember that Chapter 2 of the Constitution fundamental objectives and directive principles of state policy is the guidance, the measurement. So if you condemn Abacha for dictatorship, it is not because Abacha was Kanuri. You condemn even me or any Yoruba person if they are practicing dictatorship. An inefficient government will build a bad road in which you can die, irrespective of whether you are Yoruba or otherwise. Your children will run away from the country. They will not consider whether they are Yoruba or anything. So when we have an opportunity to put our country right, we have a duty to put it right. The fourth is that when all is lost in Nigerian politics, as history has shown, people find light in Yoruba land because of the works of people like Adewole and many of our leaders. Therefore, we cannot in this generation be a bad example to say that the fountain of honor has dried up in Yoruba land. It cannot be the case. It has to be that the fountain of honor that produced Adewole, produced many of our great leaders, that fountain is still flowing, and we can produce better leaders in this country. And the last point I will make is very important. That the law is the most effective instrument of change. Therefore, any reforms, any advancement that we need to do for Nigeria requires members of this body to find non-sentimental solutions, to find practical, jurisprudential, and constitutional framework to make our government accountable, to give some breathing space to the different peoples and diversities in the country. There are differences in the classes to make the law the equalizer between the powerful people and the not so powerful people. To use law for economic reform such that what you gain is what you put in. We cannot have a law, banking law, financial law, in which the banker, without creating any wealth, can become a money launderer for the political class. And the profitability of a bank does not relate to the deposits given by the customers or the ability of them to create wealth in the economy. And we say that we don't have a role to play. And lastly, we must remember that the resources given to this country is such that poverty and insecurity should not be something that is connected to Nigeria. And that poverty does not stay in one place. If we don't eliminate poverty, even the professionals, the middle classes, the lawyers, the accountants, the engineers, they will start to see erosion in their income. They start to see that they cannot live a life which their colleagues elsewhere can live. So we need to have a government that can protect our currency, the accountable economy, and get things right. So, máa fi ìṣẹ́jú kan sọ ti èdè Yorùbá kan wọ́n sọ pé ilé ògbédè. Ó ní pé in tí ẹgbẹ́ ìgbìmọ̀ aṣòfin Oòduà lè ṣe fún orílẹ̀-èdè Nàìjíríà ni pé kí ìwà ọmọlúwàbí tí àwọn bàbá wa fi kọ́ wa ní ilẹ̀ Yorùbá tó sì súnmọ́ ìwà ọmọlúwàbí tí àwọn Gẹ̀ẹ́sì fi ń yan ẹni tó lè wá sí iṣẹ́ amòfin. A lè sọ pé torí pé a jẹ́ Yorùbá ká má fi àpẹẹrẹ tó dá sílẹ̀ fún iṣẹ́ tá à ń ṣe àbí àwọn aráàlú. Òṣèlú tá lè ṣe nísìn kìí ṣe òṣèlú ká máa fi rọ́ kẹ́ àwọn tí ò ṣe dáadáa. Òṣèlú tá lè ṣe gẹ́gẹ́ bí amòfin ni pé ká jẹ́ kí a wá ìjọba tó lè tẹ̀lé ìlànà òfin, tó ṣe òótọ́, tó jẹ́ pé ọmọlúwàbí nìkan ló lè di gómìnà àbí gbákejì gómìnà àbí sẹ́nétọ̀ àbí àwọn aṣòfin àgbà àti àwọn aṣòfin ìpínlẹ̀, àti pé ọmọlúwàbí nìkan ló lè jẹ ààrẹ ní orílẹ̀-èdè Nàìjíríà. Kí Ọlọ́run fún wa ní àǹfààní ká má gbàgbé tí àwọn bàbá wa kọ́ wa, torí ọmọ wa ò lè ṣe ìdílé bẹ̀rẹ̀ kó lọ jí ìlẹ̀kẹ̀ onílẹ̀kẹ̀ o. Ọmọ wa ò lè ṣe ìdílé bẹ̀rẹ̀ kó lọ jí ìlẹ̀kẹ̀ ẹlòmíì. So ẹ jẹ́ ká mọ̀ pé a gbọ́dọ̀ tẹ̀lé òfin. Ẹ ṣé, mo dúpẹ́ fún ètò tẹ́ṣe lẹ́yìn. The Egbe Amofin Odua is part of the Nigerian bar. It's a group of lawyers who are from Yoruba land. There is no special bar. All lawyers in Nigeria are called to the same bar. But the lawyers from this part of the country have decided to enrich their experience with the cultural contributions of Yoruba land. Now you know that the ethos of good ethics, which will make you a lawyer, are the same ethics of Omoluabi. Yoruba expects a member of society to be noble, and the law is a noble profession. In addition to that, the legal profession that we're practicing now came into Nigeria through this part of the country, and they have several generations have become lawyers before that part of the country. So the profession is older here. So I think they're trying to draw from that experience. Other than that, they are good members of the Nigerian bar, they are good lawyers, and they are people who just want rule of law to become part of the culture in Yoruba land. In Nigeria, our jurisprudence is mixed. We didn't throw away our own native law and custom. That's why we have customary courts. And we also didn't throw away the Islamic law, which is part of many communities in Nigeria, especially in the north. So what we did is to synchronize and synthesize the good part of received English law and merge it with our own rule of law that we have at home, and to ensure that where our own native law is better, that is the one we give primacy. Where our native law and custom has challenges, we can improve on it by reference to English received law. And then our National Assembly and House of Assembly make laws every day to make our law better. And the lawyers, including the members of the Egbe, Amofin, Odua, always meet like this to try to find ways to make the law work for the people. And that's why I'm here to talk about that experience and to honor them when I'm invited. The fact that you are a lawyer does not mean that you're not a member of society. And because the legal profession is a very powerful profession, because we have the final say of what happens in Nigeria. Because whether you are looking for a position, whether you are trying to keep your property, whether you are trying to enforce your rights, whether you are trying to defend yourself, your liberty, the legal profession has the last say. And in the politics that we are doing now, nothing is finally resolved except the legal profession has spoken about it. Except the Supreme Court makes a ruling about it, lawyers validate what you are doing. So that should not make us to forget that we must use this position responsibly to ensure that free, fair, and credible election is a norm in Nigeria, that liberty of Nigerians is not traded away, and that we hold government responsible and accountable, and that the best of our people are the one we must give power to. So lawyers should not be on the side of what is not correct, because they have better opportunities than the rest. We should not ignore question of poverty, for example, because lawyers earn better than the average person, lawyers live better, lawyers make fortune, and they should not make fortune out of the misfortune of Nigerians. They should feel like if you support a government that leaves bad roads, lawyers too can die, their relatives can be involved in accidents. If you help the oppressor with law to legalize oppression, it will affect you one day. And overall, lawyers have ability to oil the wheel of justice so that we have happy people in the society and that the law applies to everybody. So that we as lawyers, we are the equalizer between the powerful and the powerless. And that the instrument of state, which we are now operating on behalf of all Nigerians, we don't use it to just gain privilege for ourselves alone. That we use it to ensure that justice is in the land. And justice is not only justice in the court, it's economic justice. To see that the wealth of society is not stolen by just a few. There's political justice to see that nobody can exercise authority over people. They said the people freely elect that person. And there's social justice to say that there's no discrimination based on whether you're Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa, or anything else. Or there's no discrimination because you're a woman. There's no discrimination because you are young or because you are too old or the circumstances of your birth. And that we do all of this knowing that our privileged position as lawyers is an opportunity to serve.